Hi, I'm Sarah from the upcoming. Pleasure to have you here with us in London for the film festival. If you could begin with an introduction to Red Island, what can people expect when they watch it?
Red Island is a film about a forgotten history of French colonialism. It's set in the beginning of the 70s in Madagascar, where I was living as a child in a military base, and it's the end of the colonial fairy tale and the beginning of the freedom for the Malagasy, the people of Madagascar. And it's all seen by a young child that I was at the time, so that's it.
And obviously, with your previous film, 120 beats per minute, I mean, absolutely incredible response to that film. People really resonated with that. Quite a different film
Yes.
to the one you've made here. So, how did you kind of come back from that, come back down to earth? And why was this the right story for your next film?
You know, you don't know why you have to do this film or this film. It happens to you. There are two films about my life because I was in ACT UP Paris at the time, and the story of BPM is inspired by my life at the time. And this other film, it's about my I was when I was a child, and it's always the same thing. It's about moments in my life where I changed. I went through a kind of mutation because I realized something which were very important for me. For instance, Abipen was between the 80s and the 90s. In the 80s, gay people like me, gay men, were really afraid of this epidemic. We were killing our friends and sometimes ourselves, and so there was a kind of silence in the 80s and the 90s where there was a moment we decided to make a political difference out of that and to struggle really, and it's the moment when the consciousness came, and this new film is about between the 60s and the 70s, the end of the imperial dimension of the French mentality, you know. And so it was like the last country of colonialism. And so it was the last place. Madagascar was already independent, but the influence of France was so strong that they were not free of us. They were under our control. And so I wanted to show by the eye of the child that I was, that it looked like a dream, like a fairy tales, but the Malagasy, the people of Madagascar were trapped in our colonial dream. You know, they were like, yes, like in a prison, and which looked so nice for us, but that was a nightmare for them.
And something you do so beautifully within the film is put the viewer in that perspective of being a child. And that's in kind of, the sensations and, just kind of the imaginative elements, but also the perspective on the conversations he's listening into, the adult conversations, not quite grasping everything at the time, but it's all starting to fit together. And I'm sure with the perspective of an adult, you think back to that time and see it in a very different way. So why was it so important to you to capture that? And what's the effect of that?
Partly unconscious of everything, but it's always was coming from sensations. And I wanted the film to be like, it's like a conscious with starting a little bit, because I was between 7 and 8 when I was there, and that's a moment where you look at details, at things, you hear some sounds, and as you said, you hear some conversation of the grown-ups, and you don't have a consciousness really, but you know that something is going wrong. So I wanted to put the spectator in front of a fairy tale like it was for me, but with the feeling that I had when I was a child, that the grown-ups were overacting the happiness, the magic of all that, and that's, so you have this beautiful vision of Madagascar as we had when we were there, but at the same time, you can feel that behind the curtain there's a backstage which is not that glorious, you know. And it was, I wanted to put the spectator in the same way I was recording informations and sensations which were very ambiguous for me. For instance, there's a scene where the child is going to see Santa Claus, which is in a plane, in a military plane. And I remembered that all the time, even in this event, you had behind the curtain, behind Santa Claus, you had military guys in camouflage outfits, which were like hiding in the dark. And it was at the same time fascinating for me. It was kind of part of the fairy tale as well, but it was like threatening and weird for me. And that's what I want to put the spectator in my position. And I wanted to do that also because I wanted to replay the cruelty of colonialism. So for a big part of the film, you think, where are the Malagasy? Where are the people of Madagascar? They are out of sight, you know? And the film is about how they get back inside the film. They are not like extras anymore. They are the first actors of the film. And at the very end of the film, they take the power over the film. And you lose the French white family, you know.
And there's such a strong sense of place, and the way he recreated that era, which, you know, is not without its challenges. What was maybe the most difficult moment on the shoot, and on the other side, what were some of your favourite moments?
The problem was that, you know, it was terrible for me because we went 3 years ago on to see on repérage, to see the places, and it was because it's still on. They still exist. The base still exists. It's a Malagasy base now. And so when we went, I was amazed how things were exactly where I thought it would be, you know. And that was, it was because, for instance, my mother is dead, and you know, it's for me. And these places, the home we were, they are like Greek temples, you know, in the memory of my mother. You know what? It becomes like holy places. And I realized when I saw that I want to make films which talk about everyday life, a lot of things which are quite normal, but I want to make people think that the places, the architecture, are like Greek temples, that all these things are sacred, you know, and even people, even human beings in my film, they are like, yes, sacred for me. And so when I went there, I knew, you know, they exist, but in my mind they are like mental images. And I tried to create an image which was at the same time the reality and at the same time the dream of reality, you know, to have both levels of image. And I worked with my cinematographer, Jeanne Lapoirie, which I worked for from a long time, to create that. And for me, it was very important, you know, to find an image which was, I wanted the film to be a book of image, you know. And I don't know how it is in your country, but when I was a child, when you were good at school, they gave you good points. And when you had 10 good points, you had an image. An image, it was a small image of a farm, of a landscape. And I wanted the film to have the look of this little image, which were precious because we didn't have internet, we didn't have all this. Now we are stuck in images all the time, but it was something precious and like a privilege to have just one image. And I wanted to find again this precious feeling to be in front of a film, like something which is a little bit an anomaly, you know.
And your wonderful cast, and it's a large cast, it's an ensemble cast, and
Yes.
lots of people to but kind of bring together and the chemistry between them and the nuances and the dynamics that's going on between them. But in particular, you know, the young lad that plays the central protagonist. So how do you decide on your cast, and how did you work with them?
I take like 9 months to make a cast every time because I want to be surprised by my actors. I don't want to be exactly what I wanted them to be when I wrote the script. Basically, when I write a script, which is always the pain in the ass when you work on a film, I hate that. And when you start to see people, you start to breathe, and you want people you can trust. I don't want actors to be children I have to take by the hand to explain them, or I want them to be free, that they know what they can do with the character. So it takes a long time. I wanted to work with a foreign actor, so I chose Kim Gutierrez, which is Spanish, and that I love so much. And because I chose him, I changed the character because my father was Spanish a little bit, but he was basically French. And in the film, he becomes someone who became French because he became a military guy. But he was so strong, and he can be very macho, but very natural. He didn't act like macho. He has something which is very real, and I loved it. And Nadia Tereskevich, she is a little bit younger than the character because my mother was 33 at the time. But when you see the photos of my brother and her, she looks like our big sister. She doesn't look like our mother. So I found that I like Nadia because Nadia is a very modern woman and very lively and with a lot of dreams. And I wanted to show because I thought my mother was like that, but she was trapped in our family. She was trapped between her husband and her 3 children, all male. Yes, it was like a jail in a way for her. But I always felt that she could have been someone else if she was not trapped with us. So I needed to have someone inside, like Nadia, which seems so lively and full of hopes and of projects, and that helped. And so after, when I choose all these actors, I like to make improvisation. We met all together, so that's what's different because of COVID. But we found some times to do so, and how they work together. And during the shooting, and I do that with my cinematographer, I don't ask people to be in that place or that place. I let them a little bit free, and we do very large takes, like 20-minute takes, and at the beginning it's just a mess. It's horrible, but you discover things which are so great, because if you were just trying to control everyone, you wouldn't find that. And it's things which are unbelievable. And during the day, we change at every takes, we change little things to make it more perfect. And that creates life. For me, that's something which is very important. And it's more funny also for the actors because they feel free during the take to do what they want to do a little bit. But at the end, I'm controlling people, to be honest. I'm a control freak as every director. But I liked that when it comes from a chaos. I love that.
And in terms of the takeaways from the film, it almost does seem to work on a couple of levels. I mean, like we said at the beginning, capturing that feeling of being young and how your imagination works and how your memory works, and the images that stay with you, and that thing of coming of age, but also the political element. And are we as a society still only just waking up to the reality of colonialism? Is that a process that's still happening, a little bit like a young boy realizing, and there's still a process that needs to go on of having a bit of a reckoning of that?
The thing is, I will start with the fact that in the film, it's a film about a childhood, but it's a film about a boy which is a minor in front of his parents. But for instance, Colette, the mother, is a minor in front of her husband, and her husband is a minor in front of the general, and all the Malagasys are minors in front of the French people. And at the end, when I worked on the film, I found this song of the Malagasy Revolution, which was saying goodbye childhood. Now freedom is coming, and we have the possibility of drink, of have sex, and it's like if you want to do a political move, a significant political move, you have to say goodbye to your childhood. You have to stop being the minor of someone else. It's because consciousness is here, and you never can go back to this dreamy land of being dominated, and for me it's Madagascar was interesting as an example because it was, as you said, the country was already independent, so it was post-colonialism, but it was colonialism trying to survive itself. And in France, and it's in every country it happens, in some countries it happens as well, but in France, we had this pure colonialism. You have these examples, of Madagascar, and you have what we call France-Afrique, the influence of France on Africa, and also I think a result of post-colonialism is the way the politics and the police is acting towards people from immigration in France, especially against black people for the poor quarters and for Arabian people. There's still something which is not, which is not digest. I don't know how to say that. And now people who are discriminated in our society, they are talking again about colonialism, about this effect of colonialism in our nowadays life. And that's very important. And it's not over, a lot of politics in France want to say, oh, we are not going to regret all this, and it's why talking about this all the time, but because it has effect on our minds, and it's very important. And the film is, as you say, that it's very important how sometimes it's time to get consciousness and stop being in a naive relation to reality, and which is more cozy, and you have to go out of the fairy tale and realize that things are not going as well as you think.
And just finally, you were saying earlier, it's been a while since you've been back in London. How does it feel to have the film being presented here at the festival? And you already know what you're going to be working on next.
I really love London. I really love London. I love coming to this festival because I think it's a very cool festival. It's very simple, and you have this great audience, and it's not just to be nice. It's a kind of place, you come and you feel like welcomed, and you're not stressed. It's incredible. But I must say it's because I love London and I love English people very much. It's true. It's a place I love to be, and I feel a little bit free. I'm very sad of Brexit, to be honest, really. And I think it's a mental border which we really don't need. But I mean, doing films and sharing films is the best way to just avoid that, forget a little bit about that, and to connect with people, because Europe still exists even when you're out of the European Union. It's a different thing. But that's it. You want me to talk about my next film?
Yeah. Do you already know what you're going to do next?
Yes, I have a film. I'm a little bit embarrassed because it's a film about a character which will be like 60 or 70 years old, a woman, but in the film she's 90 years old because it's in the future at the end of the century, so that she looks younger than she is. And for me it's a film an important because I want to give a big part to a woman which is like 70 or something. But it's a tricky thing because uh, she's inspired by my own daughter, so which is a teenager, and I imagine her when she will be 90, and I want her to be like she's like a teen, but very old, and I love the idea, and I'm thinking of what actress, because I want a famous actress to do the film, which actress will accept to do this film, and I'm very, very excited by that. And I cannot tell you because it's a little bit complicated film, but I think it will be interesting.
Wow.
I hope
yeah.
so.
Sounds exciting. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with us. I really enjoyed presenting the film here at London Film Festival, and best of luck with the new project too.
Okay, thank you very much.